This is the Harry Loomis Show.
Here is the official playoff grid. Obviously, it takes a couple days for NASCAR to really put out the playable playoff brackets. So the best thing we can do right now is go on Tier Maker, and fortunately, someone already came through and made a full tier list for this. Here are the drivers. You got Cindric, Keselowski, Suarez, Blaney, Logano, Briscoe, Larson, Elliott, Byron, Bowman, Hamlin, Truex, Bell, Burton, Reddick, and Gibbs. I'm just going to move this around because my OCD is kicking in. I'm not really sure what kind of order this was, and it wasn't exactly numerical order or anything like that. So we're just going to do this real quickly. All right, that's better. So the first round, first off, just kind of looking at the outlook of some of these guys, Cindric should be a first round exit, but he's been here before in 2022, and he's a guy that could sneak his way in. He's at least the second round. He's good. He's a good road course driver, and he ran really well at Atlanta earlier this year. So those two races, if he can get some good stage points, he could be a fact. He could be a factor at least into the second round. Kyle Larson could easily win the championship this year. He's probably the championship favorite by most people going in. Brad Keselowski is a very interesting one. In my mind, he's right around that round of 12, round of 8 guy if the cards fall right. He's one of those guys where you kind of know what you're going to expect out of him. It kind of depends on how the other drivers fare. Chase Elliott is a driver that's been really consistent so far this year, but hasn't really had the high end moments in the past 10 or so races. He should make the round of 8 at minimum. If the cards fall right, he could find himself in the championship four. He's had some good runs, specifically at Martinsville in the past. So if he could get a win at some point like that, who knows what could happen with him. Denny Hamlin, kind of the same thing as Larson. He's right around that. Will at least make the round of 8 unless something goes disastrously wrong. There's really no excuse for him not to make the championship four. Same thing with Ryan Blaney. He's really been having a strong year, and we saw what he did last year in the playoffs. This playoff schedule really worked out flawlessly for him to be able to win that championship. Martin Truex Jr. is wrong in numerical order. Chase Briscoe is a guy that a lot of people are going to have in the first round, but same as Cindric, he made this playoffs in 2022, and he made it all the way to the round of 8. He's a guy that just knows how to scrape and claw his way in. And now that he's got the win last week, he's got all the momentum. Stewart Haas is folding at the end of the year. They're going to put all their eggs in the Chase Briscoe basket. So he could be a contender going forward. Martin Truex Jr. has enough speed to make the championship four, but he's been running erratically enough to be out in the round of 16. Might be the biggest wild card in all of this. Christopher Bell has made the championship four the last 2 years. No reason for him not to make it again. He's going to be very strong in the playoffs. He gets better as the season goes on. Him and Adam Stevens have really figured this out, and they've had their best regular season they've had yet as well. 32 playoff points for Bell. He's going to be very dangerous to potentially get into Phoenix, where he won early in the year. Harrison Burton is, spoiler alert now, probably going to be a first-round exit. Congrats to him for winning at Daytona, but there's not a lot of reason for me to believe that they're going to have the speed, especially at Watkins Glen and Bristol, to make it past the first 3 races. Joey Logano, it's an even year, which means he should be making the championship four. He has gotten better throughout the season, but definitely not the Logano of years past. So he's going to be one of the more interesting drivers in this field. William Byron had a monster first couple of races this year, getting 3 wins before April 15th. He's been decent since then, not really too spectacular, but he's another guy that made the championship four, really had a strong playoffs last year. So he is another guy that could easily make the championship four. Tyler Reddick should make the championship four as well. 2,028 points. He's the 3rd seed. He's just been the model of consistency for the most part this year, and I don't think he's done winning races. Alex Bowman is kind of in that same camp as Brad Keselowski. You know what you're going to get out of Bowman on a regular basis, whether he makes it to I think he'll make it past the first round pretty easily. Whether he makes it out of the round of 12 or the round of 8 really kind of depends on how the field around him shapes out. He doesn't have a lot of playoff points. He's the 12th seed right now with 2005. So stage points are really going to be important to him. And he's usually a guy that runs around the back half of the top 10 to the top 15 for most parts of races. If he could turn those top 15s into top 10s, turn those top 10s into top 5s, then he's going to be in business. I think there's no reason to believe that he can't uptick just a little bit. Ty Gibbs is interesting. This is his first career playoffs, but he's starting to pick it up a little bit. Again, later on in the season, he had a pretty rough stretch around Indy and Pocono, had some engine issues that hopefully Joe Gibbs Racing has resolved. But he's a guy that can win at just about any track. He's had success at Watkins Glen before, he's had success at Bristol before. So there's no reason to believe he's even won an Xfinity race at Atlanta too. So I think he should at least make it past one round. And Daniel Suarez could be a first round exit as well. He made it in 2022, and same as Cindric, he was knocked out in the second round. Hard to say what to expect out of Suarez. He is the only track has representation in the playoffs this year. So the first race of the playoffs is at Atlanta. I'm not really going to predict who's going to win any of these races, but I can tell you right now that Penske is going to be very tough to beat there. Hendrick has run really well at Atlanta since the repave as well, aside from Kyle Larson, who doesn't get the finish he deserves, but in super speedway drafting races, Larson's done a really good job of at least being in the top 10, top 5 in getting stage points, and he's also the top seed. He doesn't have a lot to worry about, but I think if at worst he can get some stage points and things like that, he should be in business. But since that is the next race, I will make a pick, and I'm going to go on a limb and say that Joey Logano is going to get that win at Atlanta, and he will be the first driver to at least make the round of 12. But I think it's going to be a good day for Penske. I think it's going to be a good day for Hendrick. And Daniel Suarez won there earlier in the season and got a second in the range shortened race in July 2023 as well, so you can't count him out. Next race will be at Watkins Glen, which is a great track for Hendrick. They haven't lost there since 2017. Joe Gibbs Racing is also going to be very competitive on the road courses. So I think most of those drivers should have a pretty good day. And the Bristol night race, I think, is going to be another Joe Gibbs Racing track that they should run very well at. Denny Hamlin's won the last two races there, dominated both of those races. Honestly, the whole team did. 2023, I think Bell, Hamlin, and Gibbs all led over 100 laps, which is pretty hard to do. And then 2024 with the crazy tire fall off, Gibbs probably had the best car, but then Hamlin and Truex ran one too. Bell was a factor as well. So I think for the most part, Gibbs should have a pretty solid day. So who do I think is going to be eliminated in the first round? Well, I already said it. Harrison Burton will not be making it past this first round. He's not far off in terms of playoff points, but he's going to have to do some. He's going to have some performances that Wood Brothers has just not really shown they're capable of, especially at those last two races. I just don't see it happening for them. Next driver I'm going to have out is going to be Daniel Suarez. I think it's just a little bit too much to ask for him to potentially repeat at Atlanta, and I don't think the speed has been there and the consistency is lacking for him, and I don't think we're going to see Daniel Suarez make it out of the first round. Next driver I have eliminated will be Austin Cindric. Kind of the same thing. He'll be tough to beat at Atlanta. The Penske car is going to be very, very good there, but he struggled on the road courses. You expect more out of him because that's how he came up. So Watkins Glen is going to be a challenge for him, and Bristol does not seem like a track that's going to play into Cindric's skill set. So he's going to be eliminated in the first round as well. And my last elimination, I am split between Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Briscoe. And I got to say, even though it is his last year, it's kind of interesting because Briscoe is going to take over this ride next year. I don't see Martin Truex Jr. making it out of the first round. They have struggled very, very mightily the past couple weeks. He's the last seed in the playoffs, and we remember how bad the playoffs went for him last year. I think Gibbs will be strong at most of these races, especially Watkins Glen and Bristol, but I don't see that carrying over for Martin Truex Jr., and I think those will be your first four drivers eliminated from the 2024 playoffs. Looking on now, the second round has Kansas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval. At Kansas, you have to put money on Toyotas. They've been so good there. They are 4 for 5 in the next gen era. The other race was won this year by Kyle Larson by a thousandth of a second over Chris Buescher. Hendrick has run pretty well here in the past as well. William Byron's had some good speed. Same with Chase Elliott, who won here in 2018. Talladega is Talladega. You never really know what to expect. Brad Keselowski got 6 wins there. Tyler Reddick won earlier in the year. Joey Logano and Brian Blaney have also run really well at Talladega in the past. So it's kind of hard to say who's going to do well in that race. And then the Charlotte Roval favors Hendrick, in my opinion. Chase Elliott's won there twice. Kyle Larson's won there once. William Byron's had some really, really good runs there. Same with Alex Bowman, who's had some pretty solid speed. So who's going to be eliminated in the second round? Well, like I said, I think Bowman and Keselowski are going to be a product of the competition around them. Will either of these two make it? First off, I think Chase Briscoe gets eliminated. He's going to have to fight to get out of the first round, and then I just think the guys around him are just going to be too much for him to overcome. I don't think Alex Bowman makes it to the third round. He's going to give you exactly what you expect, but unless he steps up and maybe pulls off a win, I think it's going to be a pretty tall task for him to advance. I think Ty Gibbs will bow out in the round of 12 as well, and I'm also going to go with Brad Keselowski. I think Keselowski, just like Bowman, he could easily win Talladega or he could easily wreck and finish 28th. There's really no middle ground especially with Keselowski. So I think the guys that are still here, Logano, Byron, Reddick, Bell, Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, Larson, I think those are seven of the best drivers this year, and Joey Logano, who just knows how to play the playoffs so well. And I think there's really not a lot of room at the end for any of these other guys to try to make their way through. So we move on to the round of 8 at, I don't know why I can't think of where they are. We're at Las Vegas, we're at Homestead, and we're at Martinsville. And we know exactly what to expect from all these guys at all these tracks. These guys could, for the most part, win just about any week at just about any track. So no real sense in trying to figure out who. It's really splitting hairs trying to figure out who among them is going to move on. But I'm going to tell you right now, Chase Elliott will not make his way into the championship four. I think he will be competitive throughout the playoffs, but unless he has a win, I just think he doesn't have the points, and I don't think he's going to be able to make up some of the deficit. I think there's a good chance we're going to get 2 to 3 winners lock themselves into the championship four in this round, and Chase Elliott being the 7th seed is going to need to get a lot of stage points if he wants to overcome that possible deficit. I think Joey Logano does not make it to the championship four in an even year for the first time in this playoff bracket era. And that leaves a really, really tough decision for these last 6 drivers who I think is going to make it. I don't think that Denny Hamlin is going to win the championship this year. It's going to be another year where it's just going to be like 2022, just like 2023, where he's going to be very competitive throughout the whole playoffs, but it's going to be one moment that might potentially end his entire season. 2022 was the Hail Melon, which was none of his own doing. 23, it was wrecking at Homestead, which was his doing. I don't know what it's going to be this year, but I just don't see him getting over the hump and winning the championship this year, which leaves arguably the 5 best drivers all year long: Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Tyler Reddick. And just looking at the way that this has been going so far this year, I think my regular season or my preseason champion will fall short. William Byron has been so good all year long, but he's cooled off a little bit, hasn't won since April. And like I said, I think at least one of these drivers is going to get a win and make their way to the championship four. Byron is 4th in points right now, and I don't think it's going to work out for him this year, which leaves our championship four of Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick. These are 3 of the championship 4 last year. Only exception is Reddick in over William Byron. And in the playoff history, there's been 10 playoffs so far. Only once has the driver that won the championship been in the championship 4 last year. That was Kyle Busch in 2018. So that should mean that Tyler Reddick is going to win the championship. But you also have to take into account Ryan Blaney won it last year. He's great at Phoenix. He's going to get back there again in this scenario. You also have to take into account Christopher Bell won at Phoenix earlier in the year. You have to take into account that Kyle Larson's the only driver to win the race and the championship at Phoenix out of these 4 drivers. I think any 4 of these guys could win it, and any 4 of these guys would be a deserving champion. But this year feels different for Kyle Larson. The way that they are running, all just barely missing out on the regular season championship while missing a race, dominating races, leading 1,000 laps before anyone else is even really close. 4 wins on the season. It feels like they're hitting their stride at the right time. I think Kyle Larson is going to win his second career NASCAR Cup Series championship this year, and he's going to do it with a walk-off win at Phoenix. And this is going to be my playoff bracket. First round exits: Burton, Suarez, Cindric, Truex. Second round: Briscoe, Bowman, Gibbs, Keselowski. Round of 8: Elliott, Logano, Hamlin, Byron, and then the championship 4 will be Larson, Blaney, Bell, Reddick, with Larson winning. I'm not exactly going out on a limb on these predictions, but this is how I think it's going to shape out in 2024. So that is my bracket. Let me guys know what you think. Who is going to win the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series championship? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on Twitter, however you want to let me know. And I'm excited to see how this one plays out. This could be a really, really good playoff. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk again soon.
This is the Harry Loomis Show.